The NFL is the gift that keeps on giving. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode of the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in the world of sports. I am your host, Jayden, and today we got an action-packed show full of NFL news. The NFL free agency period, tampering period starts Monday, and there's a lot of storylines heating up over going into the weekend and over the last couple of days. So we're going to get into that. The franchise tag deadline was like Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to give my reaction to that as well, and some shocking releases and things of that nature. We're going to get to that as well. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed, liking the podcast, checking the podcast out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the show. So we are going to start off first with the big headliner of going into the weekend. As of today, there was a lot of bombshell news from big NFL reporters, from Jordan Schultz, The Athletic, Diana Russini. A lot of people are talking about the big two trade targets going into the 2026 NFL season, and those two individuals are Maxx Crosby and A.J Brown. We're going to start first with Maxx Crosby because he is the one making the most noise. We know he was a big focal point going into the trade deadline earlier in the season, back in, when was the trade deadline? November, early November, late October. So he was somebody who was a big name at that time, did not get moved. And even going towards the end of the season and entering the beginning of the new season after the Super Bowl in February, the Raiders have been reluctant to move on from Maxx Crosby. Well, things have changed. It is now reported by Diana Russini that the Raiders are more willing to move off from Maxx Crosby, and that seems to be the case under new regime with Clint Kubiak at the helm, head coach. And the two teams that are in the bidding right now by Diana Russini are the Cowboys and the Ravens. But she did say as well, and there are reports that there are two other teams that are involved, but they are not said as of right now. So the Cowboys and the Ravens are the big names right now in the running for Maxx Crosby. So if you are the Raiders, we've seen this road coming down a long time now. The trade rumors have been a major focal point for the last year. Maxx Crosby, great guy. He just signed an extension. What was it? Last offseason, I think he signed his extension. He wants to win. He has done nothing with the Raiders but lose. New head coaches, new defensive coordinators, new everything. The guy has not had a winning season in his career yet. He is eager to win. He wants to win. Even though he's voiced his frustrations in the media over the last couple of years, the guy does nothing. Week in and week out, he goes out and balls. And he has no sort of outside, off the field issues. That is what you are seeking in a player. Now, the tricky thing is with Maxx Crosby is, he's on a big contract right now. When you trade for him, he's going to have roughly 2 or 3 years left on his deal. And then who knows if he's going to be the same caliber player down the road when he's looking for that next contract. Who knows? That is yet to be determined. But if you're the Raiders, if you're Clint Kubiak, Tom Brady, Al Davis, you should not settle for anything less than 2 first-round picks. That is just my personal opinion. I know that is a steep asking price for Dallas. I really am more than likely positive that that is a steep asking price for the Ravens too. So who knows? Because Sports Track has got this. They're saying that there's this good side note via Sports Track that Maxx Crosby can convert his salary from $30 million to $7 million as far as his cap hit for this upcoming season. So if anybody acquires Maxx Crosby, it will be easy to get that cap hit to $7 million and be able to spend in free agency even more than what you would presume that would be the case if you were to trade for Maxx Crosby, especially for a team like Dallas. When you're talking about the Cowboys, they actually just got done doing a whole lot of roster reconstruction to where now they're $30 million under the cap. So the big stimulation for Dallas when you're trading for a guy like Maxx Crosby, like, yeah, you're trading for a guy who has a $30 million cap hit, but yes, you can get that under $7 million and still be able to talk with guys like George Pickens for a long-term deal. Not going to get into any conclusions with the Ravens. I don't know their cap situation. I just know that because of the Cowboys fan here. So that is a pretty interesting note to take and think about when we think about the whole Maxx Crosby trade regime. But it is in the best interest for the Raiders to get 2 first-round picks because that was the going price for Micah Parsons. Granted, Micah Parsons is a younger player. He was getting his first contract at the time. But if you think about it from a totality standpoint, I think Maxx Crosby is the better overall player because Maxx Crosby is the type of edge rusher. He can play to run, super effective in the passing game as well. I think he dominates and wrecks a game more than what Micah Parsons does. Yes, Micah Parsons, is he a better talent? Is he a more athletic player? Yes, but when I think of a game wrecker, I think more of a guy like Maxx Crosby. So he is someone, if Micah Parsons' going rate was 2 first-round picks in a player, I don't think Maxx Crosby's asking price is going to be as good, again, because Micah Parsons is a younger player. But I really do think that if you're the Raiders, you should try to get 2 first-round picks off of Maxx Crosby. If not, at the very least, at the very minimum, a first, second round, and maybe a player. I think that should be a generous asking price for the Raiders because you're the Raiders. You're at a point, you're in a rebuild. You want to get the most out of your picks. You know you're already going to get Fernando Mendoza with the first-round pick. You're trying to build something new here. And when you do that, you have to move off of older players. We're talking about a guy, Maxx Crosby, been around the organization for 6 years now. At some point, you got to hit a full reset button. And if you want to hit a full reset button, you do that by getting off of Maxx Crosby, but you do that with getting great compensation. And 2 first-round picks is the way to go. And I think, without a shadow of a doubt, the Raiders should try and bid to get that type of offer from teams. And I hope that's what the GM of the Raiders, Al Davis and Tom Brady, do for Maxx Crosby. Now another name, A.J. Brown. Look, the going rate right now for A.J. Brown is a first and a second round pick. That is the compensation, reportedly, that the Eagles are looking for. And they described it by Mike Garofalo. He described it as a Quinnen Williams type deal, which is exactly what the Dallas Cowboys did. They got a first and a second round pick, traded that in favor for Quinnen Williams. Now, before we even think about the compensation and what should happen, where should AJ go, before we get deeper into that conversation, let's just get over the elephant in the room. A.J. Brown is not going to be a member of the Philadelphia Eagles next season. There's been multiple reports during the season, even with the way Howie Roseman was talking during the combine. This relationship is over. I think the only person who had a positive comment to make towards this relationship has been the head coach, Nick Sirianni. But there was a lot of really daunting, truth-telling, and shocking remarks and comments and statements that were coming out of the media from Howie Roseman himself and the way he talked about the situation. He made it sound like, and I'm just paraphrasing here, like, yeah, we love A.J. Brown. We want A.J. Brown here. But if the price is right, we're willing to move on. I'm just paraphrasing. He didn't say that verbatim. But that, when you think about it from a grand standpoint, and someone ask what was Howie Roseman's thoughts and thought process in regards to getting rid and having A.J. Brown available in the trade market, that is the type of remark he made. So yes, he is open to still having A.J. Brown, but for the right price, he is willing to move off. But the relationship should be over. It is in the Eagles' worst interest to have A.J. Brown on the roster next season. I don't even have to talk about the bad remarks that A.J. Brown has made, the conspiracy reports with him and Jalen Hurts not having a great relationship. We've seen the footage of him and Nick Sirianni jawing at each other on the sideline. There was a game and a clip that came out earlier this year. I cannot remember who they were playing, but they got a comeback victory in the fourth quarter. And Nick Sirianni doing his normal antics, getting in the camera, pumping out his chest, and A.J. Brown just looking at him like this. Like, bro, what are you doing? So the writing has been on the wall. And A.J. Brown has had the mentality that he's already won. So he has no sort of ties of wanting to stay in Philadelphia. Now, something, and we're fixing to talk about this next player, DJ Moore. DJ Moore was actually dealt for a second-round pick yesterday to the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills are kind of helping the Eagles here, because if we think about it from a totality grand standpoint, I don't know the age difference. I know A.J. Brown is 28. I don't know if DJ Moore is 26 or 27. Cannot quite remember, but I think they're around the same age range. If you can get a second-round pick for DJ Moore, I think that you should be able to get a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. Now, the going consensus is around the league. Diana Rossini reported this as well, and multiple other teams. The Eagles are not moving off that price, and a lot of GMs around the league have pretty much laughed at that idea of giving up a first-round pick and a second-round pick for a guy like A.J. Brown. Because what's the difference between a guy like him and DJ Moore? Well, with A.J. Brown, you're getting a super talented player, super high ceiling, pretty young still at 28 years old, but the baggage that he comes with is tough with the attitude and everything else. Because we've seen that the going rate in the NFL, the idea with that first-round pick that you're going to trade of being able to hit on a elite talent, high ceiling type wide receiver in the NFL draft, the odds of that is very high given the what's the word I want to look here? Use here, but the evidence that's been proved for the last 5-6 years in the NFL draft with the ability to draft high caliber wide receivers in the first round. So teams are going to be reluctant to pay that price for a wide receiver because it was kind of different for Quinnen Williams. We got to think of the value of that position. It is hard to find elite defensive tackles in the first round. That is not the same to say for a wide receiver. And Quinnen Williams, you got to think about the personality. The guy loves football. Off the field, no problems, no drama. What has A.J. Brown continued to cause in his career with the Titans and with the Eagles? Nothing but drama. So that's why the two teams that really come to mind are the Patriots and the Chargers. And those are the only two teams that are in the running right now. The reason why I think the Patriots are more than likely the favorites because of Mike Vrabel. A.J. Brown played with Mike Vrabel, loved the guy. A.J. Brown said he loves Mike Vrabel. That is a type of coach that can deal with the personality like A.J. Brown. Nick Sirianni, he can't even hardly handle his own personality, much less his own players, okay? So that is the main team and the team who should really probably be in the bargain or the ideology of giving up a first-round pick, because if we look at the Patriots roster, they have plenty of free agency cap space. And the one unit that was very, very thin for the Patriots outside of the offensive line is the wide receiver core. So if you can get a guy like A.J. Brown, no-brainer. Now, Chargers, you could probably think that is the same with them. I think their defense is elite. And when you think about their core, same thing. But they lost two of their all-pro tackles. I think that's the big difference between them and the Patriots. The Chargers might be more willing to pull the trigger because you know you're going to get Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater back if you're the Chargers. So that's tackle. You big all-pro tackles. Maybe you can surefy the middle of the line in the draft with your second and third round picks. But when you think of the Chargers, what did they lack? Wide receiver room. Quinyon Johnson came up big. But if you add A.J. Brown, another big outside target for Justin Herbert to put along Quinyon Johnson, put Ladd McConkey in the slot, Keenan Allen, latter part of his career, you thank him for his services. So those are the two teams that I think should be on the run for A.J. Brown. But let's not get things confused. The Eagles are going to move off of A.J. Brown, no matter what the price is. I think it is not. Let me say this again so I can clear this up. I think it is not in the best interest of the Eagles to have A.J. Brown on their roster in 2026. The last trade acquisition we're going to discuss, DJ Moore. And this was it was a shocking move at the time because, you know, free agency's coming up Monday, all these moves that are happening. Seems like teams are trying to get themselves prepped and ready cap space wise for free agency and freeing up some getting ready to make these moves. So the Bears have been pretty much cleaning house. They've got rid of multiple players. Tremaine Edmonds, one of their offensive linemen retired. So the Bears have a lot going on. But one move that they made that was pretty shocking at the time, when you think about it from a grand scheme of things, wasn't really that shocking. DJ Moore. The Buffalo Bills traded for DJ Moore. The compensation was the Bears got a second round pick, and the Bills were able to get DJ Moore and a fifth round pick. Initial reaction was shocking because one of the reasons why the Bears were very fun to watch this season, the reason why the Bears were, I thought, were one of the favorites to win it all in the NFC and one of the best teams in the NFC this season is because of their weapons. You had Loveland, Kmet, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Zacchaeus in the slot. You got a great running game with Monungai and Swift and a great offensive line. You think of that and be like, man, why would the Bears get rid of that type of unit? Well, here's the reason why. It was a win-win trade for both teams. Now, I think a lot of people have argued that Brandon Beane is foolish for giving up a 6th-round pick for DJ Moore. That's another argument for another day. We're not going to go down that road. But when you think about it, Buffalo is in need of a wide receiver. DJ Moore is not your consensus number one wide receiver. When you think of DJ Moore in the grand scheme of things, you would definitely take the CeeDee Lambs, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You would take all of those guys over a guy like DJ Moore. He is your fringe one, more like a complemental number 2 type of receiver. So if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I am still in the search for another wide receiver because the way that wide receiver unit is, Josh Allen can use all the help he can get. But when you think about it from Chicago's standpoint, you're saving cap space. There's been a lot of weird vibes coming out of Chicago when it pertains to Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. Haven't really been seen to get on the same page. We knew what happened in the playoff game in the NFC divisional round where you had that miscommunication between DJ Moore and Caleb Williams against the Rams, and it cost them their playoff run to the NFC Championship game, which I thought at that point in overtime they were going to win that game. So that moment between him and DJ Moore cost them that. Obviously, DJ Moore made a huge play towards the end of the regular season. So there's a lot riding on this. But if you're the Bears, you don't lose sleep. I don't think I don't think DJ Moore is a type of player that you lose sleep over if you get rid of him. Because when you think about it, Chicago believes in Luther Burden. He showed a lot towards the latter half of the season going into the playoffs, made some big plays. So you believe he is the future. That is why you move off of a guy like DJ Moore, get him more complemental in the offense. You still got Roma Dunze, who Caleb Williams has a lot of rapport with, and that's what you want at the end of the day for your quarterback. Does your wide receiver and your quarterback have good chemistry? Are they buddies? Are they pals? That is the case for Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams. That was not the case for DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. That relationship, for some reason, did not work and was severed. So clean slate for DJ Moore. But you still got Roma Dunze. You got Loveland. I don't know what they're going to do with Kmet. They have been talking about getting rid of Kmet just because of the emergence of Colston Loveland. Don't quite know what they're going to do there. But when you think about it from the grand scheme of things, you still got Zacchaeus, Adunze, Burden, the offensive line, and you got 2 elite tight ends. So it's not a killing move for the Bears. Now, I think the problem with the Bears, you're moving off of these guys, trying to make all this cap space to shore up the other side, the defense. You need a pass rush. That's why the Bears are one of the teams that I didn't mention earlier in the Maxx Crosby trade, but they are the third team that many people in the media are throwing around at the idea of pursuing Maxx Crosby because one side of the ball is pretty much set and they have the cap space to be able to take on that contract, and it is a win-ready Super Bowl caliber roster at this point in time, and that is what Maxx Crosby is looking for. So it was a win-win for both sides, specifically for the Bears, what we're talking about, and for Buffalo. You need a wide receiver. You're desperate for one. Obviously, Brandon Beane has no idea, like teams like the Eagles or the Cowboys or anybody who knows how to draft wide receivers. For some reason, Brandon Beam cannot hit on one. He threw his own one under the bus that he just drafted a couple of years ago in Keon Coleman. He has not lived up to the type of player many thought he was going to be in the media coming out of the draft. A lot of the off-the-field issues and everything else that comes with it. He sat out a couple of games, healthy scratch this past year. So obviously Brandon Beam cannot draft a wide receiver to save his life. He shouldn't even been promoted to director of football operations. That's another argument for another day. So it's a win-win for both. Both gets a wide receiver that they are really in need of, but they do need to go out and get another one. So that is it for the trade acquisitions. There are going to be more to come. I am sure, and you can bookmark this, I am sure within the next couple of days, before Monday, I predict that Maxx Crosby and A.J Brown are going to get dealt. Franchise tag window ended roughly earlier this week, and there are a couple of names that I want to discuss. First, we're going to get to Mr. Trey Hendrickson. He did not get franchise tagged by the Cincinnati Bengals, and he is going to be an unrestricted free agent. For the Bengals, this was just mismanagement of player personnel. Bad job all around by the GM, by the owner, and everyone involved with the Bengals organization. Because when you have a player like Trey Hendrickson, you got to get something. What good organizations do, in which I'm not going to talk about it, but Trent McDuffie of the Chiefs. The Chiefs knew they were not going to be able to re-sign him in free agency. What do? You trade him off and get valuable assets for him. What did the Bengals not do? Trey Hendrickson has been in trade talks for the last 2 years. And so when you have the opportunity to at least put some sort of transition tag on them or anything else, etc., to where if you're not going to match the offer, you're going to be able to get some type of draft compensation out of that. They decide not to do that. They let him walk. Bad organizational management. You should have been able to get some sort of compensation for a player like Trey Hendrickson. You knew you weren't going to be able to sign him. You knew that when you signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to their contract extensions. You knew that when you signed Joe Burrow. And you knew that. So that's just bad management by Cincinnati. Breece Hall, great player. You need a quarterback. The going rate right now for a running back, who knows what that market is going to be. Javonte Williams for the Dallas Cowboys signed for an $8 million per year type deal. I think he got $16 million guaranteed. So he's pretty much set the market right now for free agency running backs. Now, Breece Hall, even if he wasn't franchise tagged, he wasn't going to get Saquon Barkley type money. See, I think Saquon got $12 million a year, maybe. Can't quite remember. But Kenneth Walker is going to be a free agent. He wasn't franchise tagged by Seattle. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So I think if he signs, he is going to set the market for what Breece Hall is going to want in the future. But if again, bad management by the Jets as well. Breece Hall, great running back. You should have been signed him to a deal around $6 million. Could have got him at cheap. It's just bad. Bad all around. Daniel Jones got the transition tag. And if you are the Indianapolis Colts, what other option do you have? Now, we're going to talk about another individual who just became a free agent before this even happened. He became a free agent after the Colts did this, but Kyler Murray is an option, but we'll get to him later. But what other option do you have? You are the Indianapolis Colts, who have not been able to figure out the quarterback situation since Andrew Luck retired 8 years ago. You've done Matt Ryan. You just got Phillip Rivers out of retirement. You did Phillip Rivers during the season. You did Carson Wentz. You drafted Anthony Richardson with a 4th-round pick. You just have not, in no way, form, or fashion, been able to get the quarterback situation right. And through 8 weeks, it seemed like you did with Daniel Jones. But guess what? Daniel Jones tore his Achilles, shattered his leg. Who knows what type of quarterback he is going to be in the future off of injury? That is a big question mark for the Colts. But what other option did they have? It would be interesting to see if they go after Kyler Murray. I would love that type of team for Kyler Murray because I thought the roster was pretty good and they were pretty much a quarterback away. But transition tag, pretty good option for the Colts. Now, Kyle Pitts is him and George Pickens, when it pertains to the franchise tag talk, they were the only ones to me that made the most sense. I'm not going to talk about George Pickens. I already talked about him beforehand. You can go find that in the previous podcast. But for Kyle Pitts, drafted in the top 10, if I remember correctly. Stud tight end coming out of his draft class. The consensus number 1 tight end available. And throughout his 4 to 5 years in the NFL so far, he has not lived up to the hype or expectations, so to speak. This year was his best year that he's had all year. He made a Pro Bowl, if I remember correctly, and I think he even made an All-Pro team for the first time in his career. But if you are the Atlanta Falcons, given his injury history and his inability to put those type of numbers up with him being a first-round pick and being the consistent number 1 tight end and the amount of tight ends who are thriving in the league so far, if you've been able to do this for 1 year, why would I invest a 4-year contract moving forward if I'm not 100% certain that you're going to be able to put up those type numbers going forward? So I would definitely advise putting a franchise tag on him because it gives you another year. You don't have to sign him to a long-term contract, and you get to see if it is a good idea and smart idea to invest that type of money into Kyle Pitts. So thumbs up to the Atlanta Falcons. They're pretty much saying I need to see more, and that is the number 1. That was a great option by the Atlanta Falcons, and I got to give them credit alongside the Dallas Cowboys because these are two teams that both agree that they need to see more from their stars via the franchise tag. Last topic, we are flying through all of them. Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was officially, well, I wouldn't say officially. It is being reported that if Kyler Murray is not dealt in a trade before the start of the new league year on Monday, he is going to be released by the Arizona Cardinals. So this, without a shadow of a doubt, is the best quarterback available in free agency. High ceiling type talent, number 1 overall pick, but there's a lot of baggage that comes with him. His personality-wise, he has been nothing but a headache. He was the first player in the history of the NFL. He was the first player in the history of the NFL to have a clause in his contract regarding him playing too many video games, and not enough studying film. He had a requirement in his contract to study a certain amount of film. I don't even know if it was daily, weekly. I don't remember what that number was. But just know that he had to do a certain amount of studying and not playing a lot of Call of Duty. Pretty embarrassing. One of the most embarrassing moments I can remember for any type of player regarding having to sign any type of contract over the last decade plus. I've been watching football and been keeping up with football in the media. So personality-wise, he is a headache. So that is the reason why him and Tua is going to be another one who's going to get this done too. Nobody is going to trade first-round picks for these guys with the type of baggage that they come with. Tua, the injuries, not not worth a first-round pick. And in the case with Kyler Murray, he's injury-prone as well. He's a headache personality-wise. But now that he has been supposedly going to be cut, he has upside. He's low cost. You don't have to take on that massive contract that the Cardinals gave him. The Cardinals are going to eat that up. So if you are the Steelers, the Vikings, the Colts, the Jets, and Dolphins, just throwing out teams here, you should be all over this guy. Specifically, my 2 favorite teams, maybe even 3. If Kyler Murray wants a chance to compete and win a playoff game, maybe even win a Super Bowl, I think the only team right now on this list that I think if Kyler Murray plays well, he doesn't have to play great, but just plays well and could win one or two playoff games. I think the Minnesota Vikings is the only team on this list. Minnesota, you get Justin Jefferson. For some reason, I cannot remember the other wide receiver too. He's amazing. Came out of USC. I got a brain fart with that, but you know who I'm talking about. You get Justin Jefferson. You get him. Quality wide receiver too. Great head coach. Great defense under Brian Flores. Brian Flores, top 5 defense in the NFL just this past year. And just great situation all around. And we know J.J. McCarthy so far is not the answer for the Minnesota Vikings long term. They're looking at any sort of quarterback option, veteran quarterback option, before this news came out of Kyler Murray. So that now that Kyler Murray is available, you can sign him for $8, $9, $10 million, low price, and you can add him to your roster, and he should be capable enough to win you one playoff game if you're the Vikings. Another team that I would consider is the Steelers. I would definitely go with Kyler Murray over Aaron Rodgers. Much more upside again, better ceiling. But before I even continue to talk about the other teams, let's just get this down pat. Kyler Murray is not a quarterback I see anyone hoisting a Lombardi with. And a lot of people in the media over just this week has been throwing around the idea of this being an equivalent to the Sam Darnold story. My pushback on that is this: the personality. Sam Darnold, even when he was struggling in New York, there was no questioning his love for football. There was no questioning his desire to win. Nothing but positive things. Says the right things in the podium. He looks like a franchise quarterback. He looks the part and he acts the part. And he was willing to be a backup. And when he got his opportunity to shine again in Minnesota, he balled. And this year, when all the tables were right for the team at the time, he was able to go win a Super Bowl. That is not the case for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a number 1 overall pick. He has an ego that I don't think Sam Darnold even comes close to having. Kyler Murray is not going to your team to be a backup. His ego won't allow it. I'm talking about a guy who signed, I think his contract at the time was $50 million. So you think a guy who had that type of contract, a number 1 overall pick, is going to come to a team and says, I'm going to be willing to be your backup quarterback? It's not going to happen. Should he do it? Yes. I think he should, without a shadow of a doubt, should. I think he should go to a team that has a genius offensive mind and sit as the backup and learn. But I don't think Kyler Murray is going to do that. And another reason why Kyler Murray is never going to hoist the Lombardi is because he's not Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold loved football. We had to put a clause in a contract for Kyler Murray for him to want to study the game he's being paid to play. Because he would rather do anything else but do his job. So in what way on earth? I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can get clowned for it. I don't care. But in what world are we confident in saying that we are able to compare Kyler Murray to Sam Darnold as far as success stories? Sam Darnold, I think, is a success story in his own. I don't think we will see that situation for decades. And I mean decades. I'm fixing to be 22 years old. I would be lucky to see that same story in 30 years. That is how remarkable the story and situation and everything that involved Sam Darnold happened. But it's not happening with Kyler Murray. But the number 1 team who gives them a chance to hoist the Lombardi is the Vikings. But I think Kevin O'Connell, he doesn't have that type of situation with a starting quarterback where he's able to sit from and and let Kyler Murray be the backup. Because we both know, in comparison to Kyle Shanahan with Brock Purdy, we knew Brock Purdy was a better quarterback than Sam Darnold at the time. We know right now, if Kyler Murray was to be put in a quarterback room with J.J. McCarthy, Kyler Murray is the better quarterback. Other teams to consider, Steelers, I just think great option. Need a quarterback, better option than Aaron Rodgers. But it kind of probably isn't the worst time. The defense is on a decline. They're getting older. Don't love the offense. You do have DK Metcalf, but they got a lot to do offensive-wise to get in with the times. Colts, Daniel Jones is hurt. Who knows how well he's going to be. The Jets, he's a free agent. He's not going to go to the Jets. Kyler Murray is not going to go to the Jets. I'm not even going to get down that road. They got too many problems in themselves. And the Dolphins, they've been cleaning house too. You're getting rid of Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. You're getting rid of Tyreek Hill as well. You got Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. And Jeff Hafley's your new head coach. So there's a lot going on there as well. So I don't know if Kyler Murray is going to want that. But I think the 3 best options for Kyler Murray, and ones that I think let's just say 4. The 4 teams I do see being in play is the Dolphins, Colts, Vikings, and Steelers. That is all I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. And this will be our last podcast for the weekend. I will be ready to get and discuss all the free agency news that will happen on Monday. Be safe. I love you. Have a good weekend. I'll see you all in the next one. Love you all.